Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for another Nightmare on Elm Street film. This one probably, even though I don't want it to be, should have probably been the end of the franchise at this point, because I think after this movie, it really goes in a different direction that I kind of appreciate but don't like. Does that make sense? Anyway, this film is the very, very cartoonish 1991, 2 years after the previous movie, Part 5, The Dream Child. Yeah, I get the titles confused all the time. This is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. I have it in this box set of movies leading up all the way to Freddy vs. Jason. I love this set, man. Look at that black and red. It's so nice. I talk about it all the time when I review these. I just really love it. Anyway, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare was directed by like a PA on the series, like who'd worked on like everything from the first film onward. Her name is Rachel Talalay, excuse me. I have respect for this woman. I really do. I think she knows the series, but I think that she slightly drops the ball here. This film, as I said, is a little too cartoonish for me. I think that 4 kind of picked up this, well, let me start back a little bit further. 3 kind of introduced a little bit more comedy in there, mixed with darkness, mixed with creativity and scariness, and some really cool dreamlike things that the series adopted fully at that point, in part 3 of the series. Now, 1 had some things in there that kind of dragged along through every film, and that's a good thing. This movie picked up habits directly that 4 kind of pushed a little bit further, and then 5 pushed even further on, and this film picked up from 5 and went like full-on Looney Tunes. You know what I mean? Freddy here, Robert Englund's always good as Freddy Krueger, don't get me wrong. You don't really understand how he came back after Part 5's ending, but he just kind of shows up and he's haunting a fella who basically falls asleep on an airplane, supposedly, and he looks like Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World, and he falls out of a plane and like falls down to the ground from the sky. And he has amnesia from this point on after he escapes from Freddy. And Freddy's coming after him. Well, he starts to suspect maybe he has some ties to Freddy somehow. He doesn't really know what it might be. Maybe his parents had some issues with Freddy since he may have lived on Elm Street at some point. But apparently he makes his way back to Elm Street at some point. Maybe not even that. I don't even know where he went. It's been about a month since I watched all these movies in a marathon. But even so, Freddy's coming after this Ryder Strong look-alike. It's like a balding Ryder Strong. Anyway, the guy is good. I like him. Don't get me wrong. It's not an insult. I love Ryder Strong. This guy is good. He's fine here. There are some lines that should have been changed a little bit more, as some of the tone should have been tinkered with as well. The film is just too comedic. Like, literally, when I say it goes a little bit Looney Tunes, there's a scene of Freddy Krueger pushing, like Wile E. Coyote, a bed of spiky nails over into the road where he hopes that Ryder Strong look-alike falls onto when he's falling out of the plane. Yeah. There are scenes of Freddy Krueger pretending to be the Wicked Witch of the West, or is it the East? Whatever that Wizard of Oz reference is. Anyway, whichever one wears the black outfit in Wizard of Oz. He's trying to be that at one point. There's a lot of Wizard of Oz jokes in here for some weird reason. It's nice, it's kind of creative the way that was creative back in the day. The film drops the ball in a lot of places. I think a lot of the acting is very, very rough. There's cameos in here from like Roseanne Barr, who I do love, Tom Arnold, who I don't love. I don't care if they were married at the time. There are cameos in here from those two. There's a cameo in here from Johnny Depp, which is really nice and kind of a nice little pleasant thing in my fandom heart, you know. There are some good moments in this movie. And I will say this, Rachel Talalay didn't drop the ball on the creativity. There's a lot of little cool creative things. There's some great gore at times in here. And then there's some like Nintendo financed pandering in here, like using the freaking gaming glove thing, whatever that thing was called. It was before my time. I missed it by like 3 or 4 years. So I was born in the later 90s, like the 94 is when I was born. So I missed this film by a few years. I was born when New Nightmare came out. Anyway, there's a lot of pandering to like kids. Like this is, when people talk about MTV Freddy Krueger, this is the one for me. Not 4, not 5, not 3. Even though people can argue that about those movies. This is the one for me. Because by this time, the MTV generation didn't give a shit about the series. They didn't give a shit about this movie. They didn't give a shit about Freddy Krueger. From what I could tell looking back in history, talking to people like my mom who are big horror fans, it seems like that was about the time that nobody cared when this movie came out. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. It maybe depends on demographic and area. I don't know. Point is, this movie is extremely flawed. Extremely. The script is flawed. The acting is flawed. The directing is flawed with like a first-time director, I believe, with Rachel Talalay. I admire her appreciation and love for this series, and I think it's very clearly there. But man, this film is flawed. That cartoonish nature is through the entire film. And there's even one big change in here of a twist that I just don't think works. And I think it's a mistake because of the directing of one particular person in this movie. I don't want to spoil it for you. There's also an actress that you might know. Her name is either Lisa Zane or Liza Zane. I'm pretty sure it's Lisa Zane, who is gorgeous in this movie. Just a gorgeous, beautiful woman. And she is on a popular TV show. I think it's like SVU, a Law and Order SVU, which I don't watch. I don't know. But she's a beautiful woman. And she's trying hard to bring a decent performance here. But I would say this character, the writing of this character, the directing of this character, is so awful that it makes Alice in Part 4, one of my favorite films in the franchise, look better. It really does. That film, Alice, is extremely poorly directed, poorly written. You know, it's relying on the concept of her adapting all these different abilities of her friends over time by the film's killings of those people. And in this movie, it just seems like it doesn't really know how to deliver certain things. It doesn't know how to execute certain things a film should know how to do. But I think a lot of it works. Now, mind you, this is the movie that was also supposed to have moments in 3D, and literally it happens in like the last 10 minutes. You're told walking in when they put on the glasses in real life. It's like 10 minutes of this movie. I know 3D is hard to shoot, and I do think 3D incorporation here, as lame as it is better than Friday the 13th Part 3D, because I don't like that movie to begin with. I think the 3D is terrible in that movie, and I'll stand on that grave till the day I die. Part 3 sucks, Friday the 13th. So, this movie I like probably more than that. I don't know how much, but maybe a little bit more. I used to hate this movie. Growing up, I hated this movie. The first time I ever saw it, I didn't like it. When I bought this box set back in the day, I wasn't a fan of this movie when I rewatched them after a really bad breakup that I had. I love these movies. I love this series. This is probably one of the weakest. But however, this is the weird thing. This time around, about a month ago, when I rewatched these to do these reviews, and then I just disappeared for like 2.5 months, when I rewatched these, I actually tried to go in this time and think, even though I just watched 4 and 5, which I really like, I need to try to adapt my mind to this, really think about it. Where was the series at that time with the comedy tone, with Freddy, with Robert, all those things? Where was New Line Cinema at that point? And when I went into this movie, I gotta tell you, I wouldn't say I loved it, and I wouldn't say I even greatly liked it, but I would say I liked it more than I ever have. It wasn't as bad as it was before. And however, there's a couple of upcoming movies that I think drop down a little bit for me in my appreciation and like for those movies. And that's going to be interesting to talk about in the next couple of reviews, so we'll get there when we get there. But this particular movie, it's heavily flawed, probably more flawed than any film in the entire franchise leading up all the way to the remake. It's got extreme problems. It's got extreme issues with the script and the execution of events and moments. There's not really many kids in this movie, right? There's not a whole lot of killing in the movie, but when it's there, it's great. There's like one girl who's like a kickboxer kid, like, because like Lisa Zane, that one girl in this movie that's so beautiful, she's like a teacher at a place that I don't know if it's like an orphanage or something. I assume it kind of is. It's very odd to explain. It's kind of like a help for kids type of thing, and that's where our Ryder Strong lookalike ends up at, which I forgot to mention that in here. But there's like a girl that likes to kickbox in here. There's another guy who's deaf named Carlos who has a great couple of moments in this movie that I really like. And there's another kid who loves video games and he smokes pot. And that's really all you have in the movie for kids outside of Ryder Strong lookalike and Liza Zane or Lisa Zane. It's got immense problems in this movie. It doesn't look as good as any film previous to it, even like some kind of odd-looking movies like the original, you know? It doesn't look as good as any of the previous films. It looks the cheapest of any of the films in the series. The cinematography is not great. It's fine, but it's not great. It's got a lot of problems, man. Like, real, actual problems. But I don't hate this movie anymore, for whatever reason. Every time I watch this movie, it's because I'm marathoning everything else before it and after it, in a big row, right, in a couple of days. Well, a week, you know what I mean. There's so many of them. But this one, I just don't hate it this time around. I just don't. I'm not trying to make excuses for it either, being a big Friday or a big Freddy fan. It's just, I don't hate it the way I used to. I've seen so many bad movies over the years, and so many bad movies I've reviewed on this channel so far, that it's really hard to hate this movie. right now, frankly, for me personally. Does it do the Nightmare on Elm Street film franchise justice? Absolutely not. This is supposed to be the last film of the franchise at that time, and I know it wasn't in hindsight, but it sucked as an ending for the franchise. Yes, it has a lot of lore on Freddy that to me is a little odd and kind of contradicts some of the previous film stuff, but it does go into some Freddy stuff I do like, to a degree. And then there's some really bad stuff in here that just sucks. But there's some great stuff like the kills in here that really make up for a lot of that, in my opinion. The twist in here I talked about is a weak, poor executed twist. It's got problems, there's no doubt about it. There's no getting around it. But do I hate it? No, I don't. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of cool things about it that I appreciate. Music is almost non-existent in this movie. It's really not the greatest, I'll be honest with you. But overall, when it comes to Nightmare on Elm Street 6, or Freddy's Dead, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, whatever you want to call this movie, it's a very mixed bag. It's not as bad as something like Last Jedi, but it's very, very mixed, in my opinion. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I'd probably lean more towards giving it like 3 out of 5 stars. I used to, back in the day, probably would have given it like a 2 or a 1, but I've seen so many really poorly, awful made movies that I know a 1 out of 5 stars when I see it. This is not that. This is a 3 out of 5 for me. For a studio film, maybe closer to a 2, but still, this is a 3 out of 5. At my end of the day feeling about it, it's a 3 out of 5 for me, this time around at least. I kind of wish it had died on this series. Well, I kind of wish this film had killed the series at that point. It kind of did until New Nightmare like 3 years later, but we'll get there when we get there. This film is what it is. It's too cartoonish. It's got extreme tonal issues, but man, tell me some of the scenes in here aren't absolutely horrific, and tell me it doesn't have some of the best one-liners in the entire franchise. I will argue that until the day I die. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this movie? Put your thoughts and comments down below, folks. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching, and once again, 3 out of 5 stars for me. Might seem a little high, might be controversial, I don't care. I love this series, and this is one of those films that, to me, stand out compared to some of the worst of Halloween or worst of Friday the 13th or any other series out there. Yeah, I stand by it. I like it better than Seed of Chucky. I like it better than Bride of Chucky. I like it better than stuff like that, man. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you. Goodbye.